Let us now turn to another extremely important and frequently tested topic in environmental studies, the ozone layer. To begin with its structure and location, the ozone layer is found in the stratosphere, roughly between 15 and 35 kilometers above the Earth's surface. This fact is a confirmed exam favorite. The ozone layer situated in the stratosphere plays a crucial protective role by shielding life on Earth from harmful ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun. Because of this function, stratospheric ozone is often referred to as good ozone, a term that has appeared directly in exams. Although ozone is considered a pollutant in the lower atmosphere, in the stratosphere, it is extremely valuable because it absorbs harmful ultraviolet rays and blocks nearly 97 to 99% of UV radiation, thereby protecting living organisms from severe damage. At this point, it is important to distinguish between the two types of ozone. The first is good ozone or stratospheric ozone, which forms a protective shield high above the Earth. The second is bad ozone, also known as tropospheric ozone, which is found near the Earth's surface. Surface level ozone is a serious health hazard and is classified as an air pollutant, a point examiners often test. This ozone contributes to smog formation and causes respiratory problems such as asthma. In fact, ozone as a pollutant is often treated as a surrogate indicator for eye irritation, a detail that has been directly asked in exams. Let us now focus specifically on ground level ozone, which functions as a pollutant. Tropospheric ozone is formed when sunlight acts on nitrogen oxides and other pollutants. It can also result from the downward transfer of ozone from the stratosphere. Importantly, ground-level ozone is both a greenhouse gas and a major component of photochemical smog, making it environmentally significant and exam relevant. Another key point to remember is that surface ozone mainly forms due to interactions between nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and sunlight, a combination that examiners frequently test. Tropospheric ozone also exerts a positive radiative forcing, meaning it contributes to warming of the global climate, another confirmed exam concept. Ground level ozone follows a clear daily cycle, and this is another area where examiners often frame conceptual questions. On hot, sunny days, tropospheric ozone levels are typically higher in the afternoon, not lower. This happens because intense sunlight drives photochemical reactions more actively during this time. At night, the ground level concentration of ozone decreases as sunlight-driven reactions stop. In the afternoon, the atmosphere is generally more unstable and has a higher dilution potential compared to mornings and evenings, another subtle but exam-tested observation. Now let us move to the critical issue of ozone depletion. You can imagine the ozone layer as a natural sunscreen for the planet. Certain human-made chemicals, especially chlorofluorocarbons, damage this protective layer. The depletion mechanism follows a clear sequence. CFCs rise into the stratosphere where sunlight breaks them apart and releases chlorine atoms. These chlorine atoms then react with ozone molecules and destroy them. In fact, one single chlorine radical can destroy up to 100,000 ozone molecules, which explains why even small amounts of CFCs cause massive damage. Another important point examiners focus on is that ultraviolet radiation photolyzes ozone into other components, contributing to ozone loss. The substances responsible for this damage are known as ozone-depleting substances or ODS. The global environmental problem of ozone depletion is primarily due to the emission of chlorinated hydrocarbons, a statement that has been directly asked in exams. Chemicals such as CFCs, halons, and HCFCs are all responsible for the destruction of the ozone layer. Halocarbons also catalytically destroy stratospheric ozone, another exam-tested fact. In addition to these, emissions from thermal power plants and excessive use of nitrogen-containing fertilizers also contribute to ozone depletion. It is equally important to remember what does not cause ozone depletion. Dioxins are not responsible for the destruction of the ozone layer, a negative statement that examiners often include to test clarity. One of the most visible outcomes of ozone depletion is the formation of the ozone hole. The ozone hole appears predominantly over Antarctica, mainly during the month of September, a fact repeatedly asked in exams. This phenomenon is closely associated with polar stratospheric clouds, which create conditions that accelerate ozone-destroying reactions in the polar stratosphere. The consequences of ozone depletion are severe. A thinner ozone layer allows more ultraviolet radiation to reach the Earth's surface, increasing the risk of skin cancer, cataracts, and immune system suppression in humans, along with damage to plants and marine ecosystems. Fortunately, there has been progress in recovery efforts. The Montreal Protocol successfully banned the production and use of CFCs, significantly slowing ozone depletion, a classic example of successful international environmental cooperation. September 16th is observed as International Ozone Preservation Day to mark this achievement. However, it is important to note that nitrous oxide is now considered the largest ozone-depleting gas, a newer exam-relevant update. Before we close this section, let us briefly connect the ozone topic with some related environmental concepts that are often tested alongside it. In terms of global warming potential, the correct increasing order is carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, and halocarbons contribute significantly to global warming. The atmosphere plays a vital role in maintaining heat balance. As gases absorb infrared radiation emitted from the Earth's surface, the basic mechanism behind the greenhouse effect. The portion of radiation reflected back is known as albedo, another frequently tested definition. Urban environments experience a phenomenon known as the urban heat island effect, where nighttime temperatures in city centers are higher than in surrounding rural areas because radiation losses over urban surfaces are lower. Global warming also affects frozen regions. Rising temperatures may lead to increased release of methane from permafrost, and vast amounts of methane are currently trapped in frozen soils of far northern regions, a point examiners often highlight. Finally, linking environmental science with public health, remember that chlorine is one of the most widely used and inexpensive disinfectants for water treatment, and maintaining optimum fluoride levels in drinking water helps prevent dental cavities in children, both straightforward but commonly tested facts.